Hi. Okay, I have got a very full video, so let's just dive right in, and it's going to be a total mix, but the focus was supposed to be small vehicle, 172nd ground vehicles, soft skins. Let's see how it goes. Just found my Churchill, my airfix Churchill, which is in a different box now, so that's pretty good. Now this particular one is a nostalgia build because the one that I built was 1982-ish, long before airbrushing even became a thing for me, and in fact the number of little tin paints that I had at the time of building this was probably 6. And it's very, very strange to think back to a time when, you know, my total model kit, everything model related, would fit into this little box. You know, tube glue, maybe a file or two. I wasn't even using sandpaper, tweezers, and 5 little paints. So now the one that I built was not in this green plastic that I can remember. I think it was a slightly different colored plastic, possibly a bit darker green. And I'm not exactly sure what to do with this one. I'm thinking keep it simple and yet actually give it a little bit of life. So I'm going to think about that, but that is sort of upcoming nostalgia build, and that one needs to get done before this one, which will be a lot more detailed and a bit of a comparison. So I want to do the airfix one nicely. It's not meant to be a slapdash. I don't actually want to build it like I built in 1982. I'll do a better cleaning and a very nice gluing and all of that. And then I was trying to remember where I'd put my Bren carrier. Managed to find that, which was somewhere around this desk. And that is another very, very nice little vehicle that I have sort of had on my list for quite some time. I'm not that keen on doing the, is that a 25-pounder or a 17-pounder? It is, I don't know, it looks like a sort of a 17-pounder or something. You remember the M3 half track that I did last year? This is sort of meant to be the next in the series of that. In other words, a nice build, nice weathering, but a very tiny little piece, you know, half the work of the Matador. So that'll probably be just after the Churchill. Now, if I have to compare what I'm doing with this and the Churchill, this isn't a nostalgia build. So the aim with this is to actually build it very nicely, but not take too long on it. And whereas the Churchill sort of doesn't matter if it gets that much attention. It just needs to have some sort of simple paint job, some sort of simple weathering, and look good. It must be tilted to more towards nostalgia than good looking. And then here's the box for the Matador. Which, is that the same gun again? Is that exactly the same gun? No, it's not. Somewhat similar. I guess this would have been a bigger gun being towed by the Matador. So what was that? Matador and 5.5 inch gun, but did it have another name? I don't know. 5.5 inch. I have to look that up. So I mean, that's not it's a very simple little piece. It's only got, I mean, 8 to 10 pieces. It's got about 10 pieces there, and I won't get rid of it, but it's not due for building at the same time, considering I'm doing a civilian Matador anyway. But I'll keep the gun. While I was looking through this, well, let me first show that. So there's my Matador as it is at this stage. There's the wood from the model ships, which I will be doing onto that decking to make it look very, very cool. I can't remember what my plan was with that. I won't be using that piece because that's very uncharacteristic. It's a bit too flat and even. I think what I was going to do was put the arches out of wire and possibly a partial covering with a very thin material to look like canvas, or just do open back. Can't quite remember what I said a long time back. So many of the things have been cleaned, but only the wheels have been painted a black so far. And then while I was looking at this, now that's actually quite a lot of pieces, by the way. That's not a bad little model. While I was looking at that, I was pondering whether, and one of you might have actually mentioned this, and it sort of slipped me by. If you did mention it, then well noted. But there is another Matador, and there it is. So this, I'm going to talk about these three kits. This and that's that one right there. I've taken the other one out. So what you're seeing is the Matador Refueler. In South Africa, these refueling vehicles were called Bowsers on the airfield. And I noticed the word Bowser isn't used anywhere here. So I'm not sure where the word Bowser comes from, if that's a bit of slang. Anyway, in my mind, when I think of these things, I'm thinking the word Bowsers. That one I have built already about 60–70%. Very, very nice. I was busy on the detail of that little area before I progress, and I will show that at some stage. And I hadn't started on, in fact, because that bigger refueler was sort of brown and less interesting than the blue and yellow one, I sort of hadn't given it much thought. And now that I'm doing that Matador, this one would be a brilliant one to have next to that. Plus, of course, it's got the 2 axles, so it's a longer version. And it's also got a little bit of a longer nose. So it's not exactly the same Matador. Do I have the... No, okay, the instructions for that one are still inside. That one is the Bedford QL, and I can't remember, what, I don't know how many Matador variants there were, so I haven't studied that much up there, but you can see that nose looks a little bit different. And I'm guessing it would have had a bit of a bigger engine to haul that huge fuel load. So that's one that I'd actually like to line up along with many of my smaller vehicles. And these 3 sets, that refueling set, the emergency set, and the RAF recovery set, are 3 brilliant little vehicle sets, which, from what I've experienced, you can actually obtain them here and there, because many people collect them and then don't build them. because they are not as appealing as an aircraft, and you end up finding them for sale again. So I've got two of these, two of the refueling sets, and one of the recovery set. Now this emergency set, again, you know, it's, you don't pay it that much attention in the beginning, but if you get into ground vehicles, this is a very, very, very awesome little set. A tiny little fire vehicle and an ambulance, and both of these are going to be very nice builds. So one of them I've put into the bag. That is the ambulance, and to be honest, I'll probably do the ambulance first. You know, that's a fair bit of model there for a tiny vehicle. And then the can't remember what they call that. Oh, they were both on Austin chassis, so they're both Austins, I think. And then a double axle, you know, again to carry that somewhat heavy water load. So quite a little detailed fire vehicle, which is not something I've ever built, and having built, if I build this one, that'll be the one and only fire vehicle I ever built, most likely. And then having two of these sets, you can use the chassis and build another variant, as well as the ambulance version. You could change that into just a truck. And the recovery set, again, two trucks. If you ignore that long bed trailer, you've still got two very interesting trucks there. The Thornycroft Amazon with a Coles crane. So that's that one. Thornycroft Amazon. And the other one is a Bedford OX tractor. A Bedford OX tractor. I am not necessarily that interested in that long, which I think they called it the Queen Mary long trailer, but at some stage I will build it. So when I build this kit, I'll build just that truck, just that tractor, I mean, just that, well, when I say just that, with its crane on it, although, to be honest, I could even just leave the crane off. But I think it looks nice enough. There's no reason not to do the crane version. It's something very different. So, you know, these, I have seen these fairly often. They're not unobtainium, as they say. So if you do like small vehicles, three absolutely excellent sets. I was watching a bit of YouTube, and having recently spoken about these models, up comes a video where something like that is being looked at. And I hadn't known much about the PV2. So there we have Kermit Weeks off to have a look at a PV2 harpoon. And a very, very good video ensues with him browsing this harpoon, and eventually then did in fact buy it. This only happened within the last very short while. Weeks, I guess. Now the harpoon apparently is a substantial modification from this. It's got 850s in the nose. It has got significantly lengthened wings, and I don't know what else. I didn't spend too much time looking up. So now I wouldn't mind actually getting the harpoon, of which I have seen a model here and there and I didn't get it. And it's in not bad condition at all, and they did a very extensive look around and video of all the equipment on the inside. So apart from the Venturas, if I happen to find a harpoon, I would like to get that. While I was talking about the what was that ship? Where did I put it? Can't remember. The Golden Hind. It didn't have the rat lines in it, so I found that, which is just so invisible when I put it in other places. So this has to go right back into that box. And I will use these. You know, a lot of people remake them, but I'll use this. This is not bad at all. You know, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. So very good. And while I was digging around looking for the Churchill, I found and I've got a few of these. Remember, I spoke about these two a little while back, and would like to do a biplane soon. The Tiger Moth sort of doesn't really count in the sense I'm talking about a World War I biplane. And then this bag popped up, and that is very, very characterful and a lot of rigging. And I'm thinking, so there was this one, and there was the there was another one. What was the trainer? Was it the DH2? Can't remember. There's another one by Airfix. That would make a very, very cool build. So I'll keep that and go and have a look through when I eventually get that, because I first want to do a number of other things. And then I found this little pack, which is, and you can't tell what it is from anywhere on this, except that it says woodworking machines. So this is HO scale, small equipment woodworking machines for an HO for 1/72 scale little workshop setting. Very nice as well. I de-sprued the Bedford MWD. So there it is in its parts now. Actually a very nice detailed kit, and it includes two versions, which means that about 8 to 10 of these parts are alternates. A slightly lengthened version, so you've got two options for that back section, and some related goodies, slightly different roof. Did they make that wider as well? Yeah, they might have. So I'm quite keen to do this. This would actually be the first vehicle that I would have done in the new airfix range. So while I don't do 148, that will be a nice little display piece. What I mean is I don't do 148 vehicles. Remember I said I had that. So that's one of my bucket list builds. .109 control panel in quarter scale. Yes, quarter scale. So that's what you get. I mean, it's not a huge kit, obviously. It's not exceptionally full. It has photo etch. It has, well, actually got very good photo etch, as one would expect from Edward. And it's got another, not exactly sure what this is. I don't know what those pieces are. There's no seat, keep in mind, so this is just instrument panel, no cockpit sides, no nothing else, just the instrument panel. So not a difficult build, but I mean it does have a good packet full of stuff. So that's two sections. Nice decals for all of the instruments. So a very unique and interesting bucket list build there. This Bedford MWD on the decals, on the instructions, slightly interesting for new airfix. You know, considering the effort that they put into instructions and so on, and they have the two versions ever so slightly different and two color schemes. What they don't have is a specs sheet like is so nice to read up on many of the vehicles. So they've got a very short description. They've got a couple of kit specs in that, you know, they'll tell you that the model is 41 millimeters wide, 89 long. But why would they not give a specs? You know, what's the power, length, load? So many interesting specs about vehicles that you could be giving. If you've gone to all the trouble of putting together this kit, that little bit of extra is honestly nothing. I have de-sprued the Chinese space, they call it Spacecraft. I don't know what size satellite this is. I'd have to actually go and do a bit of research. In fact, I don't think the instructions even have a name for us. I'll have to see if I can find anything on this. So it's not a difficult build, you know. I mean, there's a number of small items, obviously, but I think this is actually going to be a very noteworthy build, something totally different. And that's the SMS paint, which gives you that sort of glistening effect. If I put this, you know, paint it gloss black, give an ever so slight bit of, you see the difference between the panels, there's those bars in between, they can be a slightly different color, and then you paint it with that SMS paint that gives it that sort of sheen effect. You can make a very good looking solar panels and some very interesting metallizing colors for the main thing. You've got thrusters, very nice. I'm surprised I sort of left it alone for so many years. It's just been in the side of the garage there for ages. Got this book today, got a couple of books, but this one's quite noteworthy. I do love these stories from you know, naval service around that time, sort of 39 to 44, I guess, but up to halfway through the war, the sort of the nature of the naval stories was quite different. A lot of the convoy related stories. So that's cool. Now, having been chatting about the... Which one is this? This is that motor launch. Having been chatting about the Liberty ships, this was that one I was pondering a little while back. Which is the HDML, is that it? Harbour Defence Motor Launch from a 1984 magazine. But I was thinking about this ship which we'd spoken about. Is that one right? Yes. And I was trying to remember, was that a Liberty ship which we'd actually spoken about? Because at that stage I didn't really, I hadn't registered in my mind really the significance. So this was the Empire Campton, which is an Empire class transport. And I think what this is, I still need to do a lot of reading, is the British the earlier British ship, or is this not quite that big? I was wondering if this was the sort of the more common ship prior to the Liberty ships coming online, because the Liberty ships were quite a bit bigger than this, I think. 1945. This says 1945, although I have to read up a little bit about this one again, because I think there were two sort of main transport ships used by England before America was asked to build the Liberty ships. And because of my interest in the Liberty ship now, depending on what I read up about this, but I'm thinking that this is probably the... where did I put that? It's not that, is it? Oh, it is this one. That this would actually be the better one to build as opposed to the Harbour Defence Motor Launch. So when I eventually complete the wooden projects that I'm busy on, I think this ship would actually be the thing. We can do a whole plan around that, as looking at how this could be modeled in such a way that it takes a lot less time than traditional plank on frame methods. Can I maybe mold the entire hull? We'll see. We'll think about that one, but I need to just go and do a bit of reading and see where this fits into everything. I mean, alternatively, one could say, well, you don't actually have to build this one at all. You can try and obtain a Liberty ship model plan to roughly, what scale is this? 1/75th scale. This is, where's the stats on this? 890 tons. Okay, this makes it a lot smaller than a Liberty. One 4-cylinder 2-stroke British Polar diesel producing 640 horsepower. Okay, this is not at all like a Liberty ship. This is a small transport. So I think we did read this was this sort of a small tender then? Well, a tender ship. I have to go and read that up again. But still very nice. That's almost half an hour. Okay, so I am winding up on the motorbikes that are close to finished at the moment, and the very next thing to do is to get looking at the sides of this. So I just need to go and pull out what I've done. My sheet, so all of the sheet which I've done getting those cans ready, which I was going to glue down, use the metal side. I need to sand these so that they can actually grip well with the glue, and keep in mind that the crinkle and any unevenness just plays into the character effect of this vehicle. This is not intended to be smooth and sleek and fancy whatsoever. This is a full character wheelie yellow, but I think I will make mine a ambulance wheelie yellow. So we're virtually at the point of getting back to that. And I'll probably need to do a little bit of cleanup around here. It's a bit of a disaster. Okay, anyway, I hope that was a variety-filled and interesting video. Cheers.